Innsbruck in Austria, the venue for the third race of the BMW IBSF Women's Bobsleigh World Cup. We are high above the double Olympic city, close to the town of Eagles, where the sliding centre is. And after snowfall in the first heat, the skies have not cleared, but at least the precipitation has stopped. We get into our second and deciding heat, looking for the third gold medal of the season. And in contention, well, it's so far been a German lockout at the podium. Mariam Yamanka with Leonie Fiebig behind her. Mariam Yamanka, the winner last year, last season in January of this race with the gold medal. She lies in third place. Kaliki of Germany lying in second position. Yamanka a quarter of a second off the lead. Kaliki a few hundreds in front of her, 18 hundredths away from the lead of the race. And Kristen Strack, her brakewoman. But the race leader, a winner already this season, in the last race out, in fact, race 2 in Sigulda, Lara Nolter. Change of brakewoman, Deborah Levy behind her today. They had the fastest start and the fastest trip down the ice. That leaves her with a handy advantage going into the second and deciding heat. Well, she will be the last to go to defend that lead of 1800s over Kaliki, with Mariam Yamanka lying in third. Katie Bile and Misha McNeil are tied currently for fourth position, with Bree Walker, who won yesterday's Women's Monobob World Series race, in fifth place. Lara Nolter, incidentally, finished in the silver medal in that race, with Katie Bile taking bronze. Margot Bock and Andrea Greco were in that race as well. They lie 7th and 8th here, ahead of Melanie Hassler, Giada Andreuti, and then behind them, Martina Fontenev and Sylvia Smolarek. Gert Leopold, one of the German coaches, just running through the splits, and everybody trying to give their drivers, their athletes, just a little bit more at the start. Misha McNeil and Montel Douglas, fine polishing the runners, and everybody warming up, trying to find what they need to get down the track. Melanie Hassler working her way through it. And there is your Olympic champion, Mariam Yamanka, rehearsing the start. Here's the Italian duo, Giada Andreuti and brakewoman Anna Schenk. Bree Walker there. So Brianna with gold in yesterday's Monobob series. She's having a very fine time in Monobob. Sylvia Smolarek will be first off. She was 12th in the first heat. They go in reverse order, last to fast. Good morning, John Morgan. Martina Fontenev follows her, then Andreuti, Hassler, Greco and Bock. And then we get into our top half dozen. Bree Walker lying in sixth position. A tie between Misha McNeil and Katie Bile, and a German podium sweep looking a real possibility here. Innsbruck in Austria, round 3 of the BMW IBSF Women's Bobsleigh World Cup. We kick off our second and deciding heat with the Polish duo Sylwia Smolarek and brakewoman Julia Slupeka. And for the Poles, it's only the second World Cup start of their careers. They raced in one of the Sigulda weekends at the beginning of the year. 6:10 getaway, they had 6:15 in the first heat. Brakewoman only in her 5th bobsleigh race, and the driver Sylvia, this is only her second year of driving bobsleds. She drove monobobs the year before, but the plank sled monobob is a very different proposition. It's a good learning tool, but it is like taking the training wheels off a bicycle when you get into a 2-seater sled. Raced in Europa Cup last year, came to the World Championships. We saw them there for the very first time. And now embarking on this Europa Cup campaign. So we've got a Polish sled in the women's field, no Polish sled in the men's field at the moment. Her previous best in the World Cup. She comes across the line to lead with a 55.55. That's 4/10 faster than her first heat. Again, as she gains more experience, those increases will be gradually reduced. It's only the first World Cup race she's had here. She's had one Europa Cup race here as well. Sylvia's only World Cup performance up until now. She finished in 7th place in the field in the first race in Sigulda. She's not going to match that PB here, but she will be setting new marks for herself at every new track that she races on in World Cup. And we stay here next week as well. That gives her more learning opportunities. It's a rare opportunity in a season. Oh, big hit there as she brought it down too early to the line. Sitting in is our first of our Swiss athletes. This is Martina Fontenev. Nadia Pasternak behind her, the brake woman, having to do all the heavy lifting here, literally as well as metaphorically. Now, she is rocking the sled. I've had this conversation many times. When did people stop rocking the sled, and why is breaking that inertia initially before you put in all the effort a bad thing, apparently now? 6:06. That's a faster start than she managed in the first heat. Hopefully she will be, well, tired, but still fit after this run. Martina nursing a hamstring injury, which is why she didn't run in yesterday's monobob race. She would have had to have done all the pushing, otherwise the sled would barely have moved off the line. So quicker start, better speed than the Polish duo. Martina with much more experience of driving bobsleds as well. It's Martina Fontenev's 26th World Cup race alone. I think Sylvia Smolarek has done 26 races yet. Second up. Actually, it's half a second behind Giada Andreuti, 54.89. Sylvia Smolarek applauding the Swiss performance from the leaders box. That's where Martina will head shortly. So 54.89, they came down 55.41 in the first heat. So slightly better push. Yeah, poor Nadia. It's a lot of work to push a heavily laden sled with the driver already in it. But a good drive from Martina Fontenev. Exit here of corner 9. She's got a slightly later steer going on, and that's why she has that little skid. But by this stage, doing much the same speed they would have been off a full racing start. It really, obviously, when you start slowly, catches you or costs you most in the early part of the run. Next up, Giada Andreuti of Italy, the 25-year-old with 26-year-old brakewoman Anna Schenk behind her. And this is Giada Andreuti's second ever World Cup start. Raced once last year, took 15th place in Winterberg in January. So she's going to improve on that, assuming she gets down to the line. 5.86 to start. 7/10 up on Martina Fontenev with better speed as well than the Swiss sled. Again, with a full racing start, that can only be expected. Not a bad exit from 9 to 10. She corrected the error from the last time. 7/10 up still. It's a good-looking drive from Giada Andreuti. And across the line she comes, 54.69 compared to 54.91, so better than 0.2 of an improvement. Well, there's less snow in the track, there's no snow falling, so the ice is going to be running a little cleaner. Less resistance from going through clumps of snow, but improvements as well. Definitely it looked like a smoother drive. Let's take a look at the load. It's like doing high hurdles. It's not the easiest thing to get your legs over the side of the cowl. You do occasionally see drivers getting their foot hung up. And then gets her brake woman, Anna Schenk. Nice load. She's got good routine going. So Italy lead from Switzerland and Poland. And plenty of variety in this field. Next up for Switzerland, Melanie Hassler with Yasmin Nif. Yasmin, a former driver as well. In fact, Melanie at one stage was her brake woman. Now the positions are reversed. Melanie Hassler. They start The fastest so far, 5:72. They started 5:74 in the first heat. And his fourth World Cup start. Nice looking run through the upper labyrinth. She really does look quite relaxed in the sled. Nice smooth lines. 0.6 of a second up on Giada Andreuti. She had 1400s from the first heat. This is a really good looking run from Melanie Hassler. 0.7 up now. Big improvements here. And she'll be challenging Andrea Greco, 54.06. So there's Giada Andreuti. She's a Ramseidel who is working with the Swiss team. 54.06. They came down 54.77 in the first heat. A 71/100ths of a second improvement. That's not all track, is it? It's a much nicer looking run from Melanie Hassler. Still just 22 years old, full-time insurance clerk and bobsledder. And her best result so far, 4th place in Sigulda. Don't think she's going to get 4th off 9th in the first heat here. But we know she's got potential. Another season or two, who knows where that young lady may end up. Well, she might overhaul this sled. This is Andrea Greco of Romania with Katarina Vick behind her. Katarina, at one stage, a German skeleton athlete, now a Romanian bobsledder. Andrea Greco didn't race in the World Cup here in the spring. Her best ever result, she was the European Championship silver medalist, finished 2nd in the race in Sigulda in the spring here at the end of 2020. She's definitely got podium potential. 500s is the lead, it's coming down. They didn't start quite as quickly in the first heat as they have in the second. 5:67 in the second heat compared to 5:73. So they found a little bit more in the start. But the sled hasn't quite got the speed that we saw in Melanie Hassler's Swiss sled. 500ths of a second in it. I think she's going to struggle to find that in the final corner. Dives for the line, 800s back. 54.17 run. It's a big improvement, but not big enough. 54.74 in the first heat to 54.17, so she too found a huge slice. But Melanie Hassler found a tiny bit more. So Andrea Greco of Romania lying in 2nd place behind Melanie Hassler. Not the greatest hit. Greco was a long way off the handle when her brakewoman dipped in off the block, and that leaves Katarina Vick with a lot of work to do. There's a good reason a lot of athletes like to start on the front handle, and that's so that they can synchronize the hit with their brake athletes. Next up, France's Margot Bock and Carla Seneschal. Margot Bock in only her 4th World Cup start. She did race here in the spring, finished in 13th position. She's 7th after the first heat, and it's that sort of improvement that she will be looking for in her first full World Cup campaign. First start, 5:76, 5:70, and again, that lack of snow in the start grooves. Not everybody had a clean start. They were cleaner in the grooves after every 3rd sled. Margot had snow in the grooves on the first start. 800s up on the current leader, Melanie Hassler. She had a 10th in hand from the first heat. Started a couple of hundreds quicker than the Swiss, but only 5th best speed in that French sled. The gap is down to just 200ths of a second now. It's falling from 1200s at the start. That's a good exit out of corner 9. Margot Bock does look like she's got real driving potential, still hanging on to a 200ths of a second lead This could go either way at the line. She is 300s in front. 54.13. Melanie Hassler still with the fastest trip down in this second heat, but Margot surviving with their first round advantage. That is a PB, career best. 7th, beg your pardon, it's not. They were 5th in Sigulda. But it is a long way, an improvement on the race here in the spring. And of course, in the spring, Canada were here, the USA were here, China, Japan, a whole bunch of other sleds. But you can only race who turns up. And obviously in this strange COVID-restricted season, pre-Christmas at least, no North American teams, no Asian teams racing here in Europe. Now, the sled wasn't empty, but they were saving themselves a few hundreds. And when they came across the line 300s in front, it does make a difference. Margot Bock leads from Melanie Hassler and Andrea Greco. 6 sleds to go, race 3 of the BMW IBSF Women's Bobsleigh World Cup at Innsbruck in Austria. And next up is Bree Walker with Sarah Blizzard, the Australians making their first World Cup start of the season. 5.75 compared to a 5.76 first start. They have a 0.3 of a second and change advantage over current leader Margot Bock of France from the first heat. Bree Walker, winner of yesterday's Monobob World Series race, the first televised Monobob race, the first of the new generation sleds. They raced in Winterberg the weekend before. Bree Walker, a real leading light in the Monobob world. She's got massive potential there. She's got a good start. She's got lots of experience and she's got over. We've seen a couple of sleds getting very late there. Down in the lower labyrinth is the real danger area. Crosses the line with a 4th best time, 54.53. See the French crew as well as the track workers running to make sure the sled doesn't start rolling back. It's fairly flat there. That's Carla Seneschal. Well, the crew are out. Bree and Sarah. Sarah the sprinter, Bree Walker her driver. Sarah's been back home in Australia working during the summer. Bree Walker has been in Europe since last season. So you get late out of 10, it gets later, 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 and the sled is still climbing as the corner disappears on her. That is in 12, rolling into 13. It's a very common crash here in Innsbruck. And the sled is not going to right itself before it comes out of corner 14. And that means that they grind their way all the way into the finish area. Of course, with their heads sticking out as it bumps up against the wall. They're still doing 70-odd miles an hour, so it's a pretty bruising experience. Bree Walker a bit downcast there. She's 3rd at the moment with 5 sleds to go. But she was looking for a top 6 finish. She will be no worse than 8th despite the crash. World Cup best results, a couple of 13th places, including in here in 2019, so she will get better than that as a result. And they are at least walking away from it. They can come back next week and try once more. There was a brief track hold then, before we get to the only tie in our field, which is between Great Britain's Misha McNeil. You see her sled there on the ice. And Katie Beil of Austria, they're tied for 4th place. So Bree Walker, like every driver, feels a huge responsibility for their brake athlete. They're just a passenger. Well, the driver's a passenger when the crash happens, once it's happened, but they feel a huge responsibility for their crew, whether it's a 2-man or a 4-man sled. Everybody in there puts their faith in you and you in them. And so the drivers, their own injuries tend to be very much secondary compared to their concern for their track athletes. So another 3 minutes before the DHL sled gets to go. Look inside there at the luxurious comfort inside a bobsled. It's built for speed, not comfort. Carbon cowl, steel frame, and a handle for the brakewoman to hold on to. A couple of little finger holds is all you get. There's no seat, there's no cushioning. Sometimes you see padding, particularly on the women's sleds around the edges, and that's because the women tend to be much slighter athletes, and the size of the cowl on a two-seater sled is designed to take men as well, and they tend to be taller, wider. And when you're wider across the shoulders, that's what the cowl is built to take. And so a narrower set of shoulders often will require a bit of padding just to stop you getting beaten up by the side of the cowl. So the Aussies and the Brits sharing some of their training and assistance. Bree Walker there on the left-hand side. As I said, spent the summer in Germany with boyfriend Christian Hammers. And doing an awful lot of training in Germany on push tracks and in the gyms with the German team. And that has a huge benefit for her. Getting ready to get our race underway then with Durham's Misha McNeil and her brakewoman from Lewisham in London, Montel Douglas. Misha, 27 years old. Monty, 34 years old, former GB 100-metre sprinter. Race 3 of the BMW IBSF Women's Bobsleigh World Cup in Innsbruck in Austria. Brief track hold because of the crash of Australia's Bree Walker and Sarah Blizzard, and they are okay. They're out of the sled, they're fine, but the track crew just checking that the track is fit and safe. Montel Douglas on the right, Misha McNeil, the driver, on the left-hand side. Ready to go next for Team GB. Tied for 4th place, and I'm indebted to British coach Lee Johnston because he remembers things that I don't. And I said that Misha's best result were a couple of 5th place finishes. Her best ever World Cup result in Altenburg 2 seasons ago, 4th place, having led after the first heat. Here we go, let's get things underway. Tied for 4th place after the first heat with Katy Bile. Their start 5:65, 5:67. So Misha could be on here for a career equaling 4th position. She just needs to break the tie with Katy Bile. Current leader is Margot Bock of France. And Misha with a nice smooth run down the first time. But she was 3 sleds away from a fresh sweep, so she will have better ice here. 6,500s up on Bock. Top speed so far, 98 kilometers an hour. Little drift from 9 to 10, gets it back on track. Down through the danger zone in the lower labyrinth and diving for the line. Across she comes, 53.93. First heat was a 54.20. Guaranteed a top 5. Monty hauling on the brake handles for all she's worth as they come out of the final turn, which is not part of the timed course. So Misha McNeil, the race leader, with 4 to go. Misha finished in 5th position in yesterday's monobob race, just a little early there coming off the Kreisel. But gets it nicely onto turn 8. And then down here in the lower labyrinth, you can see the marks from the crashed Australian sled. A little late going into 13, no dramas there though. Tied with the Brits after the first heat, Austria's Katy Bile and Jennifer Onosanya. Katy Bile in her 30th World Cup start here. Good place to do it. Finished in the bronze medal position in yesterday's monobob race, and she's had a big season so far. Silver in race 1 in Sigulda, 4th in race 2. She lies 3rd in the World Cup standings. 5:58. They needed something at the start, and they've got a little better start 5:61 in the first heat, so that gives her an extra 900s in hand over Misha McNeil. She adds to that 1100s up. Don't forget the two sleds were tied to the 100th at the line. Katibal is the 5th sled out. Gonna have the freshest of ice. Only the 6th best speed, the gap's coming down. From 1100s up down to 500s, she's behind. Misha McNeil had better speed at the bottom of the track. Giada of Italy fastest at the line, and 400s back, 53.97, so it'll be no worse than a 5th place finish for Katibal, but she'll be a little disappointed to lose that tie with Misha McNeil. Misha now the race leader with 3 to go, a career high equaling 4th position guaranteed. Katibal will retain her 3rd place in the World Cup standings into next weekend, which will also be here in Innsbruck. Just a little bump into turn 1. Sled just drifting away slightly as they loaded. And here, little skid early on where the speed is low. Not what you need. So Misha McNeil is the race leader, 3 to go. An all-German podium after the first heat. Mariam Yamanka and Leonie Fiebig are in 3rd place. Mariam Yamanka, last year's race winner here. Leonie Fiebig won the last race with Lara Nolter, which was in Sigulda. So they've both got winning history. Not together yet. 5:52 start. 5:54 in the first heat. That was the 2nd fastest getaway. Yamanka didn't have the best looking drive down though. Let's see if she can tidy a few things up. Spent a bit of time in training, a couple of the runs that she would normally have had in her 2-seater sled in the new monobobs. Didn't particularly enjoy the monobob experience. She was 8th in a field of 9. 6/10 up on Misha McNeil. 3rd best speed. In her head though, it's not about Misha, it's all about her teammates who are both in front of her. Little late coming down through the labyrinth, but she comes across the line. 53.55, 4,500s better than her first trip down. And that is a 10th quicker than the leader in the first heat. So that clearly felt good from Leonie Fiebig. They have the lead, they're in the medals. Our World Cup leader has had a gold and a silver so far this year. See what it's like riding a motorcycle? The sled's leaning one way, but the head is upright. Yamanka with the best speed so far. Is that enough, though, to move her further up the leaderboard? She was 700s off silver, 2,500s off gold. Well, she's got a big smile on her face. You can see that in the eyes. What about Kim Kaliki? Lies 2nd in the World Cup standings. A 3rd place and a 2nd place so far this season. She was the World Championship silver medalist in 2020 and Junior World Champion in 2020. Kaliki, like Lara Nolter, like Mariam Yamanka did before them, has come into the German team with a bullet. Kaliki 5:49 with brakewoman and Kristen Strack. It's only 300s off the fastest start of the competition so far. That gives her another 300s over Yamanka. So what was 700s is now doubled. It's out to 1,400s of a second. Kim Kaliki looking for her first ever World Cup win still. This is World Cup race number 5. She's not been off the podium in the previous 4. 2 silvers, 2 bronzes. She's lacking that breakthrough win. Coming to the line, she's going to be well ahead of Yamanka. 1,500s up, 53.47. Again, in a one-heat race, she would still be the leader. It's only the 4th sub-54 run of the heat. Yeah, they're happy with that. It's another medal for Kim Kaliki and Ann-Kristen Strack. Kaliki only in her 5th World Cup start, but Ann-Kristen, her 20th World Cup race. 2 wins and 4 podiums so far. She also shared that World Championship silver with Kim. So Ann-Kristen Strack on for another medal in her 20th World Cup start. But what about Lara Nolte and Deborah Levy? Lara Nolte with Leni Fiebig, the winner last time out. And Nolte has a remarkable World Cup CV. This is her 8th World Cup race. She's had 2 golds, 2 silvers, a bronze, and 1 crash. Is she about to add another gold? 5:44, fastest start of the competition, better than their first getaway as well. That's the result of a slightly 2600s up on Kim Kaliki. Late in the upper labyrinth. 2900s up, 3rd best speed, good enough in the Kreisel. Good exit, carries that speed down. And there you go, there's the legacy of a good Kreisel. Top speed coming down into 9 and 10, out of corner 10, and into the labyrinth she comes. 3/10 up. If she crashes now, it's victory for Lara Nolte. She wins in Innsbruck by 0.3 of a second. Fastest start in both heats, fastest downtime in both heats. Victory for Lara Nolte and Deborah Levy. World Cup number 8 for the 22-year-old German driver. She finished in the silver medal position here last year. She goes one better to take her 3rd World Cup win in just 8 starts. Deborah Levy, her 5th World Cup start, and that is her 2nd win. She's had 2 3rd positions, now 2 wins, and that 1 crash that she had with Lara Nolte in Sigulda. So a winning combination here in Innsbruck, and that will fill them full of confidence for next weekend. Lara Nolte, also the silver medalist yesterday in the monobob. Is there anything she can't drive? Well, she can now drive a car, although she started at bobsleds before she could. 2 fast starts, 2 nice looking runs down the track. That's the real deal. Yeah, no wonder they are delighted with that. They knew they had the opportunity after the first heat, or before the first heat, after training. And it is a German sweep of the podium here in Innsbruck. Misha McNeil taking a career-equaling 4th, ahead of Katy Bile and Margot Bock in 6th position. And that is 2nd best result in Margot Bock's career. A best for Melanie Hassler, best also for Bree Walker despite the crash in 8th place. That's her career best. 9th for Andrea Greco, Giada Andreuti in 10th position. That's her World Cup best as well by 5 spots. But our race winners, Lara Nolte and Deborah Levy. They take the 3rd win of the BMW IBSF Women's Bobsleigh World Cup season. Fastest start of the competition in Heat 2, despite the fact that Lara got a little hooked up getting into the sled. Great synchronicity. You know, she's just a bundle of laughs, this woman. She's absolutely packed with fun all the way down. 22 years old, living the dream here in Innsbruck. And look, the skies are clearing as well. Might be a little bit of sitting in the sunshine this afternoon. Mariam Yamanka continues to lead the World Cup from Kim Kaliki and Katy Bile. Melanie Hassler stays in 4th. Andrea Greco remains in 5th. Lara Nolte still in 6th. That crash in race 1 has definitely hurt her points tally, but she is adding them fast. And joining us now, Misha McNeil, Bree Walker and Giada Andreuti. What that's it for race 3 of the Women's Bobsleigh World Cup. They stay here in Innsbruck though. Race 4 is on the Eagles track next weekend. You can join us for that. It's next Saturday morning. Until then, from me, Martin Haven, and the IBSF TV crew, thank you for joining us. The two-man competition comes up this afternoon at 2 local, 1300 GMT. We'll be back for that. See you then. Auf Wiedersehen for now.